Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Mindy Eggen for Fawn. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make an edge-to-edge shaker card. This is one of my new favorite ways to make shaker cards as there is very little bulk because we are not using any foam tape. You can create an entire background with it and use up all of those fun little embellishments that we've been collecting. To start off with, I'm going to be ink blending a background. I am using 80-pound white cardstock that is cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm just using a slick surface to do my ink blending with my foam dome blending tools, starting with the Salty Ocean Distress Oxide ink. So I ink blended the bottom panel of that. I flipped my cardstock and I have a post-it note protecting my fingertips so I don't smudge or get any fingerprints on my background. And then I came in with prize ribbon in the middle. Now I'm topping it off with chipped sapphire distress oxide ink. And one thing with doing these type of cards, if you're going to ink blend an entire background, is it does not have to be perfect. If you have any blemishes to it, a lot of it's going to get hidden by the shaker bits we're going to be adding to the card. But I did go back through all of my colors and just help smooth out that transition a little bit. Once my panel is all ink blended, I am going to die cut this using the stitched snowflake backdrop, which is going to give us this gorgeous snowflake background. You don't see a ton of it in the shaker card, but it does add a little bit of detail to that. So I'm lining up my cardstock with that backdrop, holding it in place with Post-it tape, and then running that through my die cut machine. Now, because I like to have a white border or some sort of border on my cards, I am trimming this panel down, and I'm trimming this down to about 4 by 5 1/4. So I'm taking about 1/8 of an inch off of each side. For the shaker card, you can use any type of packaging that you have. I happen to be using this large packaging that is the double-sided sheets from Fawn, and I am going to trim off the top, the bottom, and the sides. So we have these two pieces of this packaging. You could use any stamp packaging. I wouldn't recommend acetate because it's a little too strong to fold. We want to be able to fold this. Now I'm going to grab my card panel that I trimmed down, and I know this packaging is hard to see on camera, but I'm leaving maybe about 1/2 an inch or 3/4 of an inch on each side, but I'm using my panel there, my ink blended panel, just as a guide to make sure I have enough room on each side where I'm going to fold this over. Now you want to make sure you're using a really strong adhesive on the back of this to hold down our packaging. I am using the Fawn double-sided tape. I have not tried liquid glue or tape runner, as I do highly recommend the double-sided tape. I think that's a lot easier to use and there's no dry time involved. So I am just placing a piece of that tape around each edge of my panel. Then you can go through and just push down on that double-sided tape, make sure it's burnished into the cardstock really well. Now I did bring in a piece of white cardstock. I was hoping that would be easier to see the packaging, but it didn't seem to help. But I did center my panel onto that packaging. I'm removing just one strip of the backing of that double-sided tape, one at a time, and then folding over the edges of that packaging. I am only going to be folding over 3 sides at this point because I want to have a little hole at the top to make sure I can add my shaker bits to. So only remove the backing on 3 of those, fold those over, and there's going to be a little bit of a buildup there in the corners. I'm just going to take my scissors and trim that off. Don't get too close to the corners, otherwise you're going to create a hole in your shaker pouch and all your shaker bits will fall out. I went through my embellishment stash and I found some beautiful iridescent sequins. Since this is going to be kind of a winter themed card, I loved iridescent. I also have some clear sequins, and I am just kind of popping that open at that opening at the top and just adding a few of those sequins in there. I'm also going to take some chunky glitter with a little spoon and just add about 3 little spoonfuls of that chunky glitter. Then I can flip this over, remove the backing on that last liner that we have, or that last piece of double-sided tape, and then I can fold the top of this shut. So just folding it right over on that double-sided tape, push down really well and make sure that's secured, and then just trim off those little extras on the sides. So now when I flip this over, we have this absolutely gorgeous snowflake background. So you can see that there is a little bit, you can see the interest of those snowflakes that are stitched into the background. You shake this and the entire thing is a shaker card. This would be really fun to make with a birthday card. You could have the rainbow colored of sequins in there for a birthday card. Just so many possibilities with this. Now I'm going to add what I like to call as a security blanket. You could add this directly to your card base, but I like to have an extra piece of cardstock here to make sure it is really secure, and it's also giving me a flat surface on the back to work with. So I lined the back of that panel again with the double-sided tape, and I'm adding this to a piece of white cardstock that I cut to the same size as that shaker card. Then I'm going to add adhesive to the back of this panel and attach this to a white card base that I have cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So you could have added the shaker directly, but I just really like to have that security blanket to make sure that everything is really secure and nothing is going to come loose. Now for the front of this, you could really go to town decorating this. You could create a little scene. You could add just some sentiments. I am going with the Magic Iris Snowflake add-on. I die cut that 3 times from some white cardstock, and I'm layering it together with liquid glue just to give this a little bit of dimension. Then once again, I'm going to add liquid glue to the back of this and add it to the front of my shaker card. Now what I should have done was make sure that all of my shaker bits were down towards the bottom. That would have given me a little bit better surface, smoother surface to work with. This all still worked out, but there was a couple clusters of sequins that were hard to hold my magic iris on top of. And then I placed something heavy on it and just let that sit for a minute or two to make sure that that liquid glue dries securely on top of the packaging. For my sentiment, I am using the Magic Holiday Messages stamp set, and this is just on a white circle piece that has a stitched edge. This is actually left over from the Magic Iris Snowflake add-on that I die cut. So I stamped this in embossing ink and sprinkled on silver embossing powder. I thought the silver would work really well with my magical background that I have going on. And then I lined the back of that with some foam squares, and I'm adding it to the center of my snowflake. Now I didn't add anything else to this. I just let the snowflake and that shaker card kind of do the work for me. So now we can just shake this up. We have all these gorgeous shiny sparkles in the background and snowflakes, and that chunky glitter really does wonders in that background. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you haven't tried an edge-to-edge shaker card yet, I highly recommend it. It is a ton of fun and so easy to make. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you again soon.